All right, what's up, everybody? This is Andrew Lewin here on the Speak Up for Blue podcast, episode 176. We are talking Shark Week today, people. It's our third episode on Shark Week. It's a big week for ocean conservation. If you've never joined us before, we're all about ocean conservation. So Shark Week obviously is a big week. What we do here at Speak Up for Blue is really provide you with information on ocean conservation, get you excited about what's happening in the ocean, talk about some of the issues the oceans are facing, and then help you live for a better ocean. We help you find better products that are ocean friendly or eco-friendly. We find products that are better for you health-wise. We find products that we find ways that you can get involved in ocean conservation, whether it be specific projects you're interested in, citizen science projects, or even if you just want to get career experience, we help you with that as well. But on this podcast today, we are going to review one of the shows that aired yesterday. So this was on Monday. It was called Monster Mako. Big title with a lot to do with Mako sharks, everything to do with Mako sharks. A shark that I'm pretty curious about over the last few years because I don't know much about Mako sharks. And so I really was interested. Last year they did an episode on Mako sharks just in terms of how fast they are, how quick they are, how big they get along the California coast. This episode focused on one question and one question only. Where do grander Makos exist? Now, grander Makos are Makos that are over 10 feet in length. When they get over 10 feet in length, their body changes. It gets larger all of a sudden. It gets their teeth get bigger and sharper. Their head gets wider. Their body gets bigger overall, and they become these massive Makos. These what they like to call monster Makos. Now, when I first heard the name Monster Mako, I wasn't too impressed. You know, Monster Mako makes it seem like these things are just hideous animals, killing machines. You know, in true Discovery Channel fashion, they essentially demonize this shark. But what this shark is essentially it's a predator, an apex predator, and something that's efficient at being a predator. And it's built to be interesting. And it's built to not only just kill its prey, but become very fast and through evolutionary changes, just dominate the ecosystem that it's in, the habitat that it's in. And I'll tell you, these animals do dominate at the size that they're at and the amount of food that they can eat. They can really control food web systems. And the importance of controlling food web systems is to keep things the same, things that we're used to as humans, keeping the fishing, the fish in line, the fish abundance and biomass in line. They control that from the top down. They will hunt seals, they will eat fish, they will eat crabs, squid, and so forth. And in doing so, they maintain that food web balance, which hasn't really been, which without them, if you take them out of the system, then the whole system goes out of whack. Things change, diversity changes. Animals that are not used to dominate because they're not being hunted by sharks. It's a very complicated an unpredictable thing, and it's something that we want to avoid because it's not something that's supposed to happen. The Makos, if they do disappear, then we are in trouble, and it's because we are actually doing it. Humans are actually killing them through fishing, through bycatch, through finning, all sorts of things. It's something that we have to be very careful about. So one thing that was interesting to me, though, about the episode before I get into the details, I know some people have been having trouble streaming it or even finding out how to get a hold of these episodes because they don't subscribe to the Discovery Channel. I was actually able to watch this on the web. I live in Canada, Ontario, Canada. I was actually able to watch this episode fully, the full 43 minutes or so on the web. So that was kind of interesting to do that. But anyway, you can go on Discovery Channel. I just searched Shark Week 2016 schedule, and it gave me the exact same title, and I got onto a website, and it provided me with that information, and I was able to watch the show. Some of them are just clips, and other ones are full episodes. I don't know how many full episodes are, but you might want to check that out. I can put the link of where I actually found it, but I don't know if it works the same in Canada or the States. I'm not sure if the links are the same, because we get a different Discovery Channel, discoverychannel.ca probably. But anyway, I'll put the link in the description, just to make sure, once this is recorded, just to make sure that you actually have access. So let's get into the episode. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It was quite interesting. Actually, what they did is they did the same thing, or similar thing, that another episode on Monday did, is they looked at the same species of shark, Mako Shark on the California coast and Mako Shark on the New England coast, and sort of compared to see whether they can find granders, these large Mako Sharks on both sides, and what they're doing. Why, when are they hunting? Are they hunting? Do they even exist? That was the basic question. Do these granders exist? If they do, how important are they? What do they do? When do they hunt? When are they actually seen? Now, we've seen some Mako Sharks caught, some pretty big ones off the California coast with recreational fishermen. I'm always disappointed when I see that, because these animals get caught, and of course for the recreational fishermen it's a big fight, so it's a big battle for them. It's probably pretty important, but it gets me a little annoyed when they bring it back. They don't release it. They kill it and they bring it back for a record, and it's really just a record, and it to be honest, it pisses me off, because here at Speak of Lou, we want these animals, these larger animals, to be in the system. We want them to be around for longer than what what recreational fishermen will keep them in for, just for a record and a picture on land. And now, of course, I understand from a fisherman's perspective, landing a shark like that is pretty huge, especially their size. But they need to stay in the system. Release them after you've caught them, or even before, and let them stay in the system, because they play a vital role. And there's probably not a lot in the system. Not saying that they're endangered, but just the fact that those sizes don't come on by often. Just judging by the fact that both crews in New England and Southern California were having trouble finding these sharks at the beginning. So that's something that you have to be careful of. So these sharks stay relatively in the deep. The episode were going back and forth between New England and California. Sometimes I had difficulty to figure out which crew was which, but it was kind of interesting just how they went on the different coasts. They did that, like I said, early in the show, in the previous show on Monday that we covered yesterday with the shark invasion, or shallow invasion of sharks, where they looked at hammerhead sharks on the Bahamas coast and Miami coast. And then in the California coast, they looked at great white sharks. Guadalupe, off the island of Guadalupe, they looked at great white sharks. So, but both coming into shallow areas. So common theme, different species. This episode was common theme and common species. So it's kind of interesting. Now, there's probably some differences between these Makos, but I don't know the details of their genetics. So let's just get on with the episode. So essentially what they did is they tried to find these animals, and they tried to tag them with a camera, so that they can actually watch what they do, where they go, and see how they hunt and what they eat. They assume that they eat sea lions and seals that are found a lot on each side of the coast, especially in the California coast. So they were wondering, is that what they're eating? They want to be sure, so they want to get visual confirmation of that. Now, I said this yesterday, and this is the scientist in me. I feel weird when we're trying to answer a question where we're trying to get visual confirmation on one shark. I know these sharks are hard to find and tag and get these camera systems on them, and there's not a lot that you can do. It's hard to replicate it on a number of different sharks. Hopefully over time they can. But you wish that they'd put some more science behind it and put some more evidence. Having one shark, where you mount a camera on it and see what it eats, because it ate something a little different, we'll tell you in a second, is a little different than doing it to 10 to 12 sharks and seeing what they eat. The sample size is bigger. You get more variability in seeing what these eat. I mean, this shark whatever it ate, it might have eaten something different if it was another individual. This could be an exception to the rule. Who knows? But they did say at the end of the episode that this is just one shark, and you never know what it ate. It ate something surprising. Like I said, we're going to go through that in a second. But it was kind of interesting to see what they were talking about. So anyway, let's get on with it. The way they wanted to do it first, they had to find a shark. They had to find a shark of a specific size. So both crews went out during the day, offshore in the deep waters, and started chumming the water to try and find these sharks. A lot of times what was interesting is blue sharks showed up, as well as Makos. Usually the blue sharks would show up first, and then the Mako sharks would show up. And usually some of them were, the blue sharks were maybe 6 to 8 feet, very slender, obviously a bluish tinge to them. Others, the Mako sharks that showed up were usually about 6, 7, maybe 8 feet, not the grandeurs that they were looking for. They had trouble finding those. They couldn't find them during the day on both sides. They both went in the water. They looked on top. They couldn't find anything. It was quite interesting. So what they had to do, they decided, let's go in at night. Let's find it. So what they did, one of the crews, they put in a remotely operated vehicle, an ROV. And at night, they decided, hey, let's just kind of push this one through the water and let's see if we can find something. So they would trail behind this ROV, behind a boat, or the boat would be behind this ROV, and the ROV would go out and they would try and find a shark. So now, is this kind of an interesting thing? I mentioned this yesterday. When you're going out at night, and this is something that Shark Week has not done as much before, from my recollection, is go out at night and see what's happening. And that's what they did this time. They went out at night, saw what was happening. It's kind of eerie when you look at even an ROV camera with lights attached. It's kind of eerie because it's pitch black, and sharks will show up out of nowhere. So the first thing that they see was a blue shark, and it was kind of going in and out of the camera, in and out of the camera. It didn't bite the camera, didn't bite the ROV, but it was still a little weird. Then you see a Mako come by. And it was a pretty large size, the first one that came in, but not that big. It looked like it was about 6 or 7 feet. Another Mako came by that was pretty big. They didn't know exactly how big, but they said, you know what, there's some big suckers in there. Let's get suited up and let's get in the water. So they get in the water in the cage. And this is on both coasts. They did the same thing. They both got in the water, got in cages, couldn't get a really good look because the sharks didn't really get that closest to the cage. So what they have is the divers have this laser that points at the shark, which is completely harmless to the shark. They have this laser, and all of a sudden the laser will tell you, when you point at a certain distance, will tell you estimate the size or the length of the shark, which is very cool. So in the cage, they actually couldn't get that close to the shark. So what they decided to do, there's some blue sharks, some Makos, some pretty big sizes. They decided to get out of the water and get to the surface and stay in the water and try and find the sharks from there and try and measure them. They did end up finding a couple of big ones near 10 feet. So they're like, okay, it's time to catch them. Now, during this time, of course, you have the whole Shark Week sort of theme of scary music. The narrator has this deep, raspy voice, and they're actually, kind of going at it, trying to figure out what's happening. There's some scary instances where sharks are coming, but what was interesting is sharks would come close. They would come at the diver, and the diver would just put their hand gently on the noses and just steer them away. And they would do that a number of times to steer away. Sometimes they had to give a little extra push, but the divers never looked that agitated. Other than the way they were speaking, they looked a little more agitated, but I have a feeling that's a bit of editing, and I don't think that's real. But there might be some times where, like, oh, behind you, or to the left, oh, to the right, oh, to the left, and that could just be excitement in general and of being in the water with sharks at night. I mean, I know I would be excited. But it overall looked pretty calm, other than the background music and maybe the editing making it look a little bit more scary than it actually was. At one point during the day, I remember when they were out in the water during the day, there was, they're like, oh my God, look out behind you. And there's a shark that came under a boat, looked like it was coming up behind. It ended up being a baby shark that was maybe 4 foot long. And they probably went to commercial break during that time to build up anticipation. And that's a Shark Week thing to do, and I understand that. They want to get ratings and so forth, but I find the content that was in the whole show was actually more impressive than these little instances. So anyway, they actually find a couple of the big sharks. Now it's time to grab a hold of them. And I don't remember, or try and get them tagged and videotaped. Or a video camera installed. And I don't remember if both coasts, this is where things kind of get iffy for me, with both coasts caught one, but definitely the one on the California coast caught a shark, and decided they finally caught it. It took a while. The shark actually dragged the boat. You know, that whole saying in Jaws where we're going to need a bigger boat. Well, that could have actually played a role in this instance. But anyway, there was a part where, you know, they dragged it, and it took a while to bring him in. This is a big shark. It was over 10 feet long. It was a pretty big shark, and they tagged it, and they actually put a video camera on forward and back facing, just like they did to the tiger sharks on the Sunday's episode. And they actually watched this shark, or they waited for this, I guess, contraption, or I guess instrument to pop and hit to the surface. They were able to collect it, and they got it, and they actually watched they watched all of the different things, and that was kind of a cool aspect, you know. And what was interesting is when they looked at the footage, they could see back and forth, and they could see during the day the shark would go down very calm. The shark would go below the surface, or actually deep into the water, and just swim very calm, not really do anything, right? It would just kept swimming. At night, it got a little more agitated, and it was in hunting mode. You could tell it swam a little faster, tail moved a little faster, the frequency of the tail moved faster, and it kept going a lot faster, and it was a little bit more of a hunting mode, more aware, more sporadic in terms of head movements and so forth. Then you see it at night, or just before dusk. You see the shark come close, and then you start seeing some, I think they called it tuna crabs. It actually looked like a squid at first, but it was a tuna crab in the middle of the water column. And you see the shark just gobble it up, and then another one gobble it up. And it was eating these sharks. And the researchers weren't sure if this is something that they eat on the normal, or if it's something that they just decided to taste because they went by it. This individual went by it. So it was kind of interesting to see that. And that's what I was talking about in terms of if you tag and capture more video of the different individuals, you find out to see what the variety of diet is. Now, of course, they only had about 6 hours, or maybe even more, 12 hours of recording time on this shark, so you don't know if this is just a one-off thing. And I know it's very difficult, you know, and I'm being difficult as a scientist, saying, oh, we need better data, we always need better data or more data. But this is something that you have to look at to make a conclusive sort of opinion, I guess, or a conclusive result or statement. And you just don't have that. This is really the initial part of the research. And these researchers from the Heart Institute on the California coast, I know them a little bit, and they've been on the show before, and I've read some of their papers, and they're great scientists. They're really good scientists. So the Heart Institute's at Texas A&M. In Texas, so they're over in interesting waters, new waters, I guess, for them, asking the boat captain a lot of different things, and other scientists that are familiar with the California coast. But it was an interesting episode overall. I really enjoyed it. They didn't really demonize this as much as I thought they would, because Monster Mako really makes it sound to be like this is going to be, oh, Makos are really killers and this and that. They talked about how fast and how quick this species is. They are very fast swimmers. They talked about it last year in Shark Week, where they towed a bait box, I guess, or a bait video recorder, and they had bait on each end, and it was almost like lures, and the shark would come, and you can see the speed that it was swimming at. I think they clocked it at, I don't know, I think it can go 60 miles an hour in water, which is unbelievable. And they actually would catch those baits, so you know how fast they were. This time they talked about at night, it actually, their eye uses the moonlight to reflect the light back, so they can actually see better at night. So these Makos, maybe when they get bigger, as granders, they get bigger, their eye becomes a little bit more adapted to darkness, and they can hunt in the dark and be more successful at hunting at night, and better survival tactics, so that they don't have to come out during the day. Which, if they come out during the day, they might be more susceptible to hunting or fishing or anything like that. So interesting facts that you see within Shark Week this week, in all the different episodes that we've been talking about. They haven't really demonized it other than the titles, and I can understand why they want to bring people in to watch, and the content's great from a scientific perspective, and just somebody who's interested in sharks and oceans. I think this is really great. So I give this I rate this. I haven't been rating them. I'd rate this like a B plus. I think it was really kind of an interesting aspect. Maybe even an A minus. I'm a little partial. I'm a little biased because I like these Mako Sharks. But anyway, that's it for the show today. I just want to thank you for tuning in. I've been doing these every night. I'll probably do another one. Today is what day is it today? Today is Tuesday. I'll probably do another one tomorrow, and then I go away, so I won't be able to do as many. But I'll keep them up next week and try and get as many done as possible. I might group them together. But I might do some more YouTube live stuff. I'm trying to get audiences to come on when I do these recordings or when I do these YouTube lives. I'm going to try and figure out how to schedule it a little bit more frequently and less sporadically, try and get a good time on, and maybe post it on my channel what time I do YouTube live. And maybe not every day, but maybe once a week. But for Shark Week, you got to do as many as you can because I think it's interesting and it's a good way to relaunch the channel. So thank you very much for listening. This is the Speak Up for Blue podcast. You can listen to this recording if you go to www.speakupforblue.com/podcast. You can subscribe to the podcast and you won't miss any of our podcasts. Normally we do, or any of our episodes. Normally I do 3 episodes per week. One Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday is usually just me talking, just like this. Maybe do a review of a show, of a movie, or of a specific paper or an issue. It's usually about 20 to 40 minutes long. Wednesday, usually get a guest on, and we usually talk shop, or we talk their projects and promote their projects, what they're doing in ocean conservation around the world. And then on Friday, we do Ocean Talk Friday with our good buddy Nathan Johnson, who helps out here at speakupforblue.com. And we take 4 articles that were very popular that we thought were interesting throughout the week, and we discuss them and give our opinions on them. So that's what we do here at speakupforblue.com and the podcast. Go to speakupforblue.com/podcast and you can get all the stuff you want on this. Once this blog post is live, you can actually go to our website, speakupforblue.com/session 176. For this episode, and you can just kind of see our show notes and any kind of other resources that we have. So lots of things to do. I'll put the links in the description below if you're looking at this recording, and of course if you're on the podcast on the audio, you'll get these descriptions and these links in the description of the podcast. So thank you very much for listening. I am your host, Andrew Lewin. You've been listening to Speak Up for Blue podcast. Happy Tuesday, or sorry, this is going out live on Wednesday. Happy Wednesday, and or live on the podcast. Happy Wednesday and happy conservation.